What, you thought West Virginia was done, man? No, they're not done. I'm told possibly 5 or 6 more players could come into the program within the next week.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. Welcome back into Locked On West Virginia, guys. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the roster today. We're going to get into what I've been told that 5 or 6 more guys could commit over the next week. That's wild. We're going to have a guy on that you may know something about. We're going to have him rank some things and different fun things like that, guys. So let's get to it, man. I want to wait any longer. If you haven't seen this guy, now you will have. And this is somebody that I've watched for a while now, even though he doesn't post as often as I would like. When he does post, I watch it because he's got great thought-out things to say about the Mountaineers. So let's bring him on, man. If you haven't heard of him, this is Carson Fox with
Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports.
There it is. I just figured, you know what? It'd be best to let you say it, dude, because I'm probably going to butcher it.
That's all right. Yeah, I got some crazy thoughts, Paul. I just feel like it's the things that keep me up at night thinking about this too deep roster. And I mean, going back years and West Virginia football, for better or worse, it's one of those things: God, country, family, Mountaineer football. So it's sometimes not always in that order. So I'm really appreciative to have you or be on your show here and talk.
Yeah, man. Glad to have you. And if you guys don't know who Fox is, go check his YouTube channel out. He does an excellent job there.
Thank you.
And it's truly one of the most underrated, maybe the most underrated Mountaineer content creator, because he just doesn't, he's not, because of your full-time job, you're not able to do it a lot, right? Yeah. So I got a text from this guy last night that you see on your screen, Camden Spida Jones. And I don't know if he was following me because I was following certain people within the program or what, but he just started following me out of nowhere. And whenever I see a player that's at a Power 5 school start to follow me, my first thing to do is I send him a message, right? Hey, man, what's up? Are you in contact with West Virginia? Why would you be following me? That kind of thing. And sure enough, that's the deal. Coach, how do we say his? Coach Nice is what I call him. Nice Wonder, however you want to say his last name. I call him Coach Nice now. Coach Nice has reached out to Mr. Jones here, and they're trying to work out a visit. He's a 6'6" tight end. As you can see on the film down below here, really athletic, which we're going to pull it up here and let everybody see. This is a 6'6" tight end that runs really great routes for a guy his size, has really soft hands. Watch him shake this Power 5 defensive back out of his shoes, get outside, and make a one-handed grab in the end zone. That's really impressive right here, Carson. Here he is getting inside leverage on somebody and getting a catch in the end zone. So I think this is a guy you look at and says he's got 4 years remaining, Carson. So I think this is the kind of guys, when I see guys like this involved with our program, I get excited. What about you?
Yeah, 6'6", 225 pounds, prototypical size there. I'm very interested at this tight end group because a lot were let go. I really like what I see on tape already out of Jacob Barrick from the rush blocking perspective. And then they also brought in Grayson Barnes from Northern Illinois. So we haven't seen Greg Genross. I don't know what his role is a part of this team. So does Jones be used as a more blocking tight end in Coach Rodriguez's system, or pass catching tight end? And then with the 4 years worth of eligibility, if worst case scenario, you can redshirt him, and then, man, the position could be really his to have the taking next year.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. So obviously this would be a somewhat of a deep tight end room, but I mean, look, this is a 6'6", 235 kid, and he's a freshman, right? So there's a lot to like there. He doesn't have to be good right away. And as you can see, there's talent. Like, it's not – this is definitely a guy that can do both, especially if you project on down the line. And this is kind of part of a trend that I want to talk about today here, Cam. This is not the only player – Carson, I'm sorry. I was reading his name. He's not the only guy that's reached out to me this week as I'm trying to figure out my buttons here. Now that they've been – StreamYard changes the setup a lot. So whenever I have a guest on, the buttons change. But so this is part of a growing thing that I've had over the last few days, several different guys that either I've reached out to for comment or that have reached out to me saying, hey, I watched the show, because it grows and grows and grows. Their buddies get put on the show. I highlight a lot of different players. So I've had at least 5 guys that are pro-Mountaineer, let's just say at this point in time. I don't want to say they're silent commits, but they're definitely on that Mountaineer. They're close, right? So what do you think about that, man? With all that we've added in the last, just past week, at least 5-6 guys already. I mean, this roster could grow to 130, 140, and you were telling me off camera the house settlement.
Yeah, I think this is a reaction to the news coming down from Judge Claudia Wilkins saying that we're grandfathering in this roster limitation. So I think going into the spring showcase, Coach Rodriguez was understanding that I'm going to have to cut this roster down to 105. And that's what we just about saw a few weeks ago when that game happened. And then, it was like a day or two later, this grandfathering process is going to come in. And that's what Coach Rodriguez was saying all spring practice, is that I hate to have to cut some of these guys, even though I do think there was a little bit of dead weight still on the roster at some positions. So now he's going to course correct. He's going to go the Johnny Majors approach, and he's going to try and find, 10 guys at one position group to eventually find 2 that he feels comfortable enough in the 2 deep. And one of the other things that I think came away, you commented on his show, and Coach Rodriguez was on Josh Pate's CBS Sports show a couple of days ago. I think just there's an attitude adjustment that's coming from within this team, from the old trust the climb administration to now this hard edge mentality.
Earn success.
If you're not for this old gold and blue team first on your chest before your last name on the back, you're not going to see the field. He is going to have a quick leash on some of these guys. If there's any loafing, if there's any sense of entitlement, this is the, world in which we live in with the transfer portal and NIL these days, of me becoming for we, that's not going to fly. We're going to see what we saw 20 years ago. And if you have a mental lapse in judgment, or you're not playing hard, he's going to rotate somebody else in to fill that position. I don't care where it's at, quarterback all the way down. Yeah,
nobody's safe, man. And it's an interesting world we live in now. Certainly, for somebody like myself, I talk to players a lot. I want to have their side on a lot of things, but I can't in some instances, because I'm so loyal to West Virginia that sometimes what they do impacts us, right? And it's hard to deal with, man. It's frustrating sometimes. And I don't know. It seems like they've taken some steps to fix certain things, but other steps haven't mattered at all. And then like this house case that's going on right now, perfect example of bureaucracy, I think, in a lot of cases where, like you said, after the fact, even though we complained about it all summer, you decide, oh no, these guys need grandfathered in. Like, come on. Like, you couldn't have done something about this a little bit sooner. Is there no communication going on here? And unfortunately, the ugly truth of this is, the underbelly of this is, Carson, is there's a lot of kids that aren't going to transfer. Not everybody's Mekhi Byerson that goes to Boston College next, which for all intents and purposes is basically a lateral move, right? So it's frustrating, man, for the kid, for the players, for us. And I hate to see it, but at the end of the day, man, here's what I do like. Man, I love the idea of a lot of these high-end D2 and FCS players getting a shot in lieu of some of these guys that have kind of left, right? Some of maybe those guys that were redshirt freshmen or freshmen that were on the Neil Brown side of things. Like we saw one that went to Alabama, which was probably going to end up being a really good player at West Virginia someday. So in his place, you bring in a guy, that maybe is a senior at the FCS level, or the group of 5 level, or wherever, that's had extreme amounts of production. Darren Lewis is a great example, right? Over 200 tackles at Akron. Like, that's the guy that replaced some of those Jacoby Spells, right? Or somebody like that. So it's a different kind of player, I think, that's replacing the players who are already here.
Well, I think where West Virginia finds its sweet spot, and has for some time now, is finding some of those. Well, I'm going to call this now Power 2, where the SEC and the Big Ten is these guys that just can't make the 2 deep and are seeing their eligibility wear off, that then they can say, hey, I can go to a West Virginia and I'm going to be able to compete immediately and try and get a starting position. You saw that last year in a guy like Reed Carrico, and he didn't see starting reps. So that's
Right.
great. That means that there's better competition at that position. So when you can add some of those guys, Josh Isosa, Malik Agbo coming in, Texas, Oklahoma, they're going to come in and compete at that for a 2 deep position. But then also some of those high end guys that you talk about from the G6, from the FCS, even going down to the D2, Coach Rodriguez and staff do not care where you come from. It does not matter. It cares about your attitude and it cares about your talent and skill. So I don't care if they're finding these guys from Cannon Katzer last night. I had to look up where the heck is Ferris State. Big Rapids, Michigan, over 10 yards per carry, over 10 touchdowns.
Love him.
I watched their last night preparing for the show. I watched their game tape against Valdosta State in the Division II national title, and that team whipped Valdosta State, who was undefeated. So to get a starting running back from that team with speed, I want to preface this because what you said about feeling for the players and things. I really didn't like what Jaheim White did on that Instagram live, saying that if he was going to leave West Virginia, if Chad Scott left for another program. So I think that Coach Rodriguez, why he didn't say anything publicly, took that and said, hey, we're going to load up at this running back position. Yeah. So now they have options. And Jaheim White didn't have more than 150 carries. So if you're expecting him to come in there and have 20 carries a game,
not gonna happen.
That's not going to happen. So to spell him with Jalen Knighton from SMU, spell him with Katzer, Ty Edwards in short yardage positions. I love this running back. I love the totality of all of these different position groups, and the coaching staff's going to figure it out come August.
Katzer also had almost 400 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns while he was there. So he's a kid that you can split out, and he's got really soft hands. I've broken him down 2 separate times. 2 different shows I got out of Katzer, when he was visiting and when he committed. And I'm cool with him. We talk. And, he's supposed to come on the show at some point. He was flying home he was going to St. Louis yesterday, and I was like, dude, and let's show it really quick. I think this would be really cool to show really quick. I don't think he would mind. Let me show, before we go to break here, I'm going to show you guys a message that Katzer sent me that really, I think, guys, this is the reason, in my opinion, he's going to be such a great Mountaineer. Check this message out here really quick. All right, let me share the screen. All right. Yeah. All right, so it's down here. Just watch the video you did. I really appreciate your input. I'm driving back to St. Louis from the airport, and my blood's boiling. I want to hop out of the car and start working out. You got me fired up and ready to work. Thanks again. So I think that's the kind of kid we got, that just a simple commitment video has this kid ready to rock, man. Ready to get out and wear the old gold and blue. He posted, I tagged him in something today because last night he was saying, I just listened to Country Roads like 20 times today, right? These are the kind of kids I love, man, that are, he's been overlooked. He did go to Washington State right out of high school and walked on there and then transferred out because I think they were moving down a level. He said there was a bunch of different reasons, but generally speaking, like, he landed at a pretty good spot at Ferris State, I think, and he was able to prove what he's capable of there.
Me too, Paul. I think that this, again, is an attitude change from the Neil Brown regime in that I think that Brown and staff were a bit afraid of, well, we can't coach these guys so hard because they'll leave because of what we're, competitively paying them in NIL resources. We need to, want them to stay. And he was held captive to that. Tyke Smith, Akeem Mesidor, go down the chain from, I think that just had an overlapping effect from year to year.
It gives them too much of a leverage, right?
Exactly. And we saw that once the bowl game ended. The guys who were me first players were using to play at a Power 4 program and collect the NIL and really just coasting. Right. They went elsewhere. And that's what Rodriguez said, I will find other players. So I'm not so worried about having, 4 new transfer portal JUCO guys into this system. If they care about, hey, what I'm going to do best for the team, Now, I mean, we can get into some of these players. There's some guys who are coming off injuries or, didn't have a lot of playing time at their previous school. But then these guys who are producing at such a high level at the, lower levels. I mean, West Virginia's had really good success with some of those guys coming up from the G6 in the FCS schools. So that's who I'm really excited to see, and I think Katzer's one of them.
Let's go to a break really quick, guys. What we'll do is on the other side, I'm going to ask a couple questions to Carson. I've got the list. We'll just go through it. I've got it grouped together. I had an AI. I just typed in all the different players, their positions, then had it group them together by position. So what we'll do is we'll look through that on the other side. I'm going to have Carson rank some of his transfer guys, see what he thinks about this class so far, and we'll talk basketball too. See what he thinks about those guys too. We'll be right back, guys. This is Locked On West Virginia with the Carson Fox crossover. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by none other than Supply House, guys. We love talking about Supply House, man. We haven't seen them in quite a long time on the channel. So get the supplies you need from the sites made for the skilled trades at Supply House. Whether you're plumbing, HVAC, or electrical, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources, latest product info, and help to get you the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 spare parts from 400 top brands, you're always going to find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Like Jaheim White, need help with an order? Supply House can offer you expert support, industry-leading service, so you always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra hard edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are taking the advantage that you need to take today, and it is your turn. You need to do it. Join the Trade Master program today, guys, at supplyhouse.com/TM and start opening HVAC, plumbing, and electrical supplies with just a few easy clicks. Plus, you can use promo code S-H-5 for 5% off your first order. Do it now. Do it today at supplyhouse.com. It's segment 2, and you know what we do? We crack a do in segment 2. My boy Carson said he might even have one with him today. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. So having an 8-month-old little girl and having a yellow lab to keep up with, I need energy. Working full time and just moved also at the beginning of March. So yeah, I'm cracking a do every day.
Man. That's awesome, bro. That's funny. It's turned into a catchphrase for me. I didn't really mean for it to. What is that when you say something happens naturally? What's the word I'm looking for? It just kind of just naturally happened, I guess, like on the show, It wasn't like somebody told me, hey, you should have this catchphrase. It just kind of naturally happened out of that. So
nice. Here's
what we got, Carson. This is the list of West Virginia players provided from my data that says up there, which is organized by position groupings. So what we'll do is go through here, and this is transfer only, and then I've got the entire roster at the bottom, I think, at least from what I could find. It was in a hurry. I don't know if I got some of the, because they're updating them all the time, that players are changing. It's just, you know what I'm saying? Like, there could be a couple players missing on here, but I don't think there is. Jalen Henderson, Max Brown, Ty Edwards, Jalen Knighton, Cannon Katzer, running back and quarterbacks, Oron Singleton, Gerard Bowie, Cyrus Traw, Cam Vaughn, Jeffrey Weimer, Justin Smith-Brown, Christian Hamilton, and Jordan McCants at wide receiver, the transfer portal. Jacob Barrick, Grayson Barnes, two pretty good tight ends in the portal. Offensive line is pretty wild. Walter Youngbear, Wyatt Minor, which was a walk-on, Robbie Martin, Tykees Crawford, Michael Clay, not sure how he pronounces that first name yet, Kimo Makanioli, Josh Isosa, Malik Agbo, and Carson Fox. Just kidding. Carson Lee.
A mountaineer named Carson. I like him.
Yeah, absolutely. Braden Siders on the defensive line and Eddie Kelly. Linebackers, Ashton Woods, Chase Wilson, Jamori Robinson. I see some of these positions are kind of – I think Jamori Robinson, I guess, is technically a linebacker. Ben Bogle, who I'm super high on. John Lewis. You got Jordan Scruggs, Fred Perry, Jordan Walker, Justin Harrington, Derek Carter, Michael Coach Jr., Devontae Golden Nelson, William Davis, Nick Taylor, Jason Chambers, Darren Lewis, Ethan Head, and Cade Hensley. So This is the list that I have in front of us. I know it's kind of difficult because you don't have control of this. I'll kind of scroll through here a little bit slowly so you can look as we go through here. But is there anybody that immediately jumps to your mind and says, "Yep, he's the one guy we've signed so far"?
Number one, I have to go with Cam Vaughn. And when I rank these guys, I'm thinking in a perspective of opportunity, but also what they've done producing at their previous school and their talent of what I see. So, Cam Vaughn has a touchdown in that spring showcase, whatever you make of that event. But a guy who had over 800 yards, I think could easily be that on paper, Hudson Clement wide receiver 1 replacement. And something I'm going to talk about over the spring and the summer is the evolution of the Rich Rodriguez offense from what we know it from 20 years ago, where he was running the ball in 2007 upwards of 66% of the time. This is an offense that looks very similar to what we found out. Now, tempo excluded in 2023 from West Virginia, where it was a heavy ground and pound game and air the ball out deep. Tyler Huff, Jacksonville State quarterback, had one of the highest yards per completion of any quarterback in the country a year ago. So we're going to see lots of deep passes, and Cam Vaughn's going to catch a lot of them.
Very interesting, man. I love Cam Vaughn. I absolutely have him in my top 3 every time I rank. Well, I've had him in my top 5 in every ranking because sometimes I take him for granted and forget about him sometimes, because my first one, it's just Jamori Robertson, man. I can't help it. I went and watched some tape. I had somebody put a clip to me together. I'll have to show it sometime. West Virginia put out a series of clips over the spring period. Every couple of days they put a few practice clips together, and they were really fast, but you could keep up with some of them. And then a few players have put out, "Hey, I'm in the portal tape, right? And this is my best plays," basically. Guys that never really played a lot, but they had like this practice footage. Well, I went and had somebody clip all that together just to see what players were looking like. And I'm obsessed, obviously. So Jamori Robinson was on there a lot. And, I'll just say this. I had at least 6 plays that I had clipped together off of this it's like an 8-minute thing. It was like trying to remember of all the guys that we had to go to the portal, but it was a few of the offensive linemen, their tape that they put out on X, like, "Hey, I'm in the portal. These are my highlights." Jamori Robinson was absolutely making people look not bad, but stupid, silly.
He's a grown man, Paul. Yeah. He is a grown man, almost 24, 25 years old.
Yeah.
At his size.
He's an NFL player that chose to come back.
Oh, absolutely. And it just, Paul, can you believe it's 15 years already since Bruce Irvin was, on the sideline?
Shocking.
Just
That's
going.
shocking.
Yeah, I know. It truly is. And I love Dante Stills. Don't get me wrong. And sticking through those, 2021, 2020 years. Love the loyalty and everything as an in-state kid that he had. So Jamori Robinson, I feel like, is going to fit that same kind of build. I just wonder, and I think this was probably something that you'll talk about over the summer, is what kind of defensive front 7 is Zach Alley going to deploy most frequently? Is it a 3-man front? Is it a 4-man front? Is it going to be a 4-2-5 kind of scheme? So I think Jamori Robinson fits more of that bill of a hand in the dirt kind of guy, rush the end. If he can fit in a 3-4, I don't know if necessarily a 3-4 as an outside linebacker fits him more so than it does for a guy like Eddie Kelly. I think that's to be determined, is what is going to be the best at the bandit position and these defensive ends, depending upon what Alley's calling at any particular time.
Yeah, well, here's what I can guarantee you. They're going to be effing aggressive. That's what they're going to be. It's going to be pedal to the metal. It's going to be about forcing turnovers, whether those are fumbles, whether it's quarterback sack fumbles, whether those interceptions, and giving the offense as many cracks as you can get it, right? It's all going to be about possessions. Possessions are going to go up, plays are going to go up, snaps are going to go up. So, and that's the great thing about playing for Rich Rod is you can have 5 running backs and everybody can get a couple snaps, right? Even the 5th guy. So, and maybe he gets to a point to where it's these 3 guys, but generally speaking, there's enough snaps to go around. I don't know if we'll get back to the Dana level where we were going because our defenses were so bad, sometimes 80 snaps. I don't know if we'll get there, but I don't have any doubt we'll be in those 70s for sure with Rich Rod, if not more, so Anybody else jump to your mind that you look at and say, "Holy cow, man, this guy's going to make a huge impact"?
So Robinson was my 3. My 2 was Michael Coates.
Just go over them all. Really
Oh,
quick.
okay, sure. Well, number
let
2.
me hit the break button one more time, really quick.
Okay.
It's a 6-second break. We'll be right back, guys. This is Locked On West Virginia. When we get back, we're gonna hear the rest of his list. Then I'm gonna ask him about basketball too. Stick around. All right, guys, and we are still here. This is Locked On West Virginia with Carson Fox from
Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports.
Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports on YouTube. Make sure you check him out, guys. Does a really good job over there. Very in-depth, very good talker. So we were going to have your list. Before I get that out of you guys, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. We're really close to 5,000 subscribers. Would love to get there before the season. And make sure you share the video out if you can. Would really appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much for joining in as we close in on, which is pretty good for 12 o'clock noon, 300 people, which if you count X and YouTube. So appreciate you guys. Make sure you follow Carson. All right, go.
All right. So if I'm going to go through 8,
Okay.
I'll go number 2 being Michael Coates. Just love his
That was also my number 2.
One-on-one ability, raved in the transfer portal. And West Virginia really had to beat out some other really good programs to get his service in. Yes. So 2022, I think we can all say the Jay Ajayi McCormick experiment was failed. I went to that Baylor game. I was there in the stands, and Baylor was just running roughshod, like it was the water through a sieve on West Virginia's pass defense. And we saw that again, unfortunately, in an even year. Odd year, 2023, West Virginia gets a Beanie Bishop. Games changed. So
Charles Woods was decent.
Yeah. So 2023 with Beanie Bishop, I don't want to go so far as to say Michael Coates has to have that kind of season, but that's what you're expecting. Him at the number 1. So then kind of pair him along the other side. My 8 transfer is Derek Carter. Haven't got to see a lot of tape on him, but if he can just be, serviceable in that we don't have to, we're not calling him out like we did with Malachi Ruffin from 2022 to 2023. Ruffin was serviceable opposite Beanie Bishop. So that's really what I'm expecting out of those 2 guys, with the additional pressure that's going to be created by guys like Jamori Robinson, who you mentioned, Eddie Kelly Jr. Then I think we're going to be better defensively, definitely better, because number 4, I like Fred Perry. 111 tackles this past season. He's a thumper. West Virginia needs a guy in that safety position to fill that kind of mold now that Aubrey Burks has graduated. So I think Fred Perry's going to stick in at that nickel kind of spear safety position.
More of a run support type guy.
Yeah. Walter Youngbear, a number for the first transfer portal commit that Rodriguez and staff brought in this offseason. He's a road grader. Mahler, if this offense is going to run the ball over 50% of the time, you have to be able to move men on the defensive line. And I think Walter Youngbear is going to be one of those guys. There's going to be more oars on this 2 deep come Big 12 Media Day, Paul, than a rowing regatta. So we don't know what we're going to see just yet from who's getting the starting position, who's second string, third string, but I feel pretty confident there about Walter Youngbear at one of the guard positions. 6, Jalen Knighton. In the same respect that we talked about Katzer early on in this program. So coming off injury, if he's a guy that can come in and spell Jaheim White for maybe a half a dozen to 10 carries per game, man, he can be a home run threat at any given time. And then the last, I'm going to give a shout out to the special teams. On my previewed game shows that come out on Fridays, I always make a note to talk about special teams because that can be pivotal. Michael Hayes graduated, really accurate, money inside 45 yards. So you need a guy who's going to be a consistent place kicker. And if Ethan Head's just going to be a kickoff specialist, then Cade Hensley out of Coastal Carolina, big Myrtle Beach guy, going there in like a month. So bring him in.
Myrtle Beach.
16 for 19 on field goals last year, had a long of 49. Really liked what I saw out of, reading up on Cade Hensley. So I think he'll have ice in his veins and hit some, big time kicks for us this fall.
No Malik Ogbo on that list?
So I saw Ogbo, Clay. I feel like I don't know who's going to win the job. And then you got Xavier Bosley at right tackle, had over 800 snaps for Rich Rodriguez in 2023 at Jackson.
Yeah, I know, man.
He didn't start over Nick Malone, but I thought that might have been a little bit closer.
It was a close battle, I know for sure. Listen, Xavier's.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep pounding this, but when Xavier committed to West Virginia, he let me break the news, right? And that was the first news I ever got to break on my own. And he did that for me because he was trying to help me, and he had such humility. He didn't care whether he said it or anybody said it. And I had been contacting him for months leading up to that, caused me to root really hard for him, obviously, is what I'm trying to say here. And I haven't spoken to him all spring, and I don't know what's going on there. I was told maybe there might be an injury at some point by somebody. This is hearsay, so don't take it like I'm reporting it. And then I don't know. And they brought on all these extra offensive linemen, and it just makes me wonder some. You know what I mean, Carson?
Yeah.
One of the things I am on this show is I'm as real as hell, dude. I do not hold back a lot.
Neither do I.
So like I'll be honest and say, like, I know Bosley well. We talk a lot, and we haven't spoken, and I don't know what that means. If he's mad at me or if he's just inside himself trying to figure this shit out.
Well, and the other thing is, like, what position does Kimo Makaneole play?
They say he had a great spring.
Does he play tackle? Does he play guard?
I would say guard, but
so then if he's there, I thought Nick Cray was ready to be a starter.
Left tackle, yeah.
Because of, when Remack left for Virginia Tech, I thought, okay, that's all right.
That crushed me.
That, Cray is ready, or he would have taken the other guard position that Jaquay Hubbard left free. So then at left tackle, if Crawford's your guy there at left tackle, and I think we have to be more concerned about right tackle as opposed to left tackle because
no matter who starts.
Yeah. Well, we have two left-handed quarterbacks, so that's the blind side.
Yeah.
So if it's left tackle, if it's Crawford or one of these other insert three guys, that's what I mean. We just don't know yet at any of these position groups to just feel confident and have stability there.
I agree. I think it's the biggest concern for me going into the year. And it's because
O-line,
it's really hard to start 5 brand new guys in O-line and be good right away. I don't care how good they are. So I think it would have helped me some. Now, what it gives me some hope is Livingston and Cray and those guys can hopefully carry over the tradition that was left behind by those really great offensive linemen that we've had here. Unfortunately, Rich Rodriguez was just a couple years too early to have those guys because I think it could have been truly legendary. You had a Frazier and a Milam and those guys in Nestor with the Rich Rodriguez offense, even though they're technically a bit bigger than what he's usually had as an offensive lineman. They would have slimmed down for his offense. You know what I mean? The nutritionists, they would have had him 15 pounds lighter. They'd have been fine. They could all move great. We don't have a lot of time left, man. So let's get to basketball. I would love to keep you here for an hour. We can do more, like I like having you on. I wouldn't have reached out if I didn't like your stuff, and I'm a pretty little dude. So we'll have you back. But
thanks, dude.
Give me your opening thoughts on this. So they go absolutely bonkers in the portal and sign 8 guys, and now we haven't heard anything for weeks. It's not like being gaslighted portal style here.
Well, that's how when you first reached out to me, I was listening to your show, driving back from work, and you said something along the lines of West Virginia was allegedly spending up of $6 to $7 million in NIL on the basket, and my ears perked. I was like, where the heck is this money coming from? And I mean, this is just my theory without having anybody talking. If football is seeing NIL donor support in a way that we have yet to see since this new era of college football, and starting just yesterday in 2021, Ken Kendrick, Pat McAfee coming in to support their guy and Rich Rodriguez, that maybe the athletic department can use financial resources in another way. And Ren Baker's a basketball guy. He's got his guy in Ross Hodge. This is his opportunity to make his mark as an athletic director and see West Virginia back to national prominence. If it's going to take, more so down the line with football in a much harder world with the SEC, In basketball, there's an opportunity for them to get back to the NCAA tournament when then anything can happen once you just get to the tournament. That's why I was so pissed that they didn't get the opportunity, with what Javon Small could have done in a one-game winner-take-all situation. So I like the starting 5 already. If you're penciling in a Jasper Floyd at your 1, Honor Huff at your 2, Trayson Eaglestaff at your 3, I like Jackson Fields. I think, and Brennan Lorient coming off as the 6th man of the American Athletic Conference of the year. But I like Lorient maybe just about of anybody, just because he has that, I feel like, that big
explosive.
That athleticism that we haven't seen in a few years. And then it's been 20 years since West Virginia's had a 7-footer. So getting Harlan Obioha, I like that starting 5, but now it's the depth. Running out 8 guys, like, it puts wear and tear on you, and that's what we saw in late January through the rest of the regular season. And I think the team just unfortunately burnt out. So you got to get some more depth pieces. This is where it's
got
now
15 spots now.
Yeah, got to go out there and you got to find some guys off the beaten path. And I think that's what Coach Hodge will do.
And we'd seen Forsyth, who was a 4-star player that West Virginia had been mentioned alongside Jaden Forsyth, a 4-star player that's unsigned this upcoming year, that was down to Tulane in West Virginia visiting, which shocked me. I wouldn't expect Tulane to have a 4-star player visiting, but who knows? Maybe he's from that area. I didn't really get a chance to look into him a ton because he hadn't made it to campus yet. Usually once they get to campus, then I start digging a little more. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they fill out the rest of this roster. I saw they were looking at an LSU transfer the other day in basketball that was a top 4-star, top 100 player. So we'll see. But man, I appreciate you for jumping on, dude. I wish we could talk a little longer. The chat's definitely picked up. We've gotten, I don't know how many we got in YouTube. Let's see. Well, we've got 74 on YouTube and close to 160 on X. So we're doing pretty good for middle of the day. If we can get you on here in the evening, it'll be a little bit more livelier next time. But not that it's not lively now. I'm just saying, usually we got 500, 800, 1,000 sometimes. So would like to get you some more exposure. What I'm saying is because you deserve it, man. You do a really good job over there. You do, you're I don't want to say you're not experienced, but you haven't been doing it a ton of time yet, or at least you don't do it a lot. I guess it's probably the best way to put it because of that job. And you can't even tell. Like, you're really good at what you do, man. So
thanks, Paul.
Guys, make sure you give Carson a follow over there at, what is it called again?
Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports.
Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports over on YouTube, guys. And I appreciate you guys for joining us here at Locked On West Virginia. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen, guys, and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team every single day, guys. We record 7 days a week here, a lot of times multiple times a day, because we want to outwork everybody, right? So make sure you show up every day if you can, and we'll talk about something. We have fun guests on like this when there's not a lot of news going on. And like I said, guys, be watching over the next week. I'm told 5, possibly 6 guys could come in. So, it's going to get lively. And we'll also keep a little side eye like that meme over on basketball, see what happens there. Carson, appreciate you for coming on, man. Is there anything else you want to say before we jump off?
Absolutely. One of my mantras, though, is it's never a dull moment, Paul. Seriously. In Mountaineer athletics, I mean, how many basketball transfers, how many football transfers? We always have something to talk about. It's never a dull moment.
No off season anymore, bro.
Nope.
All right, guys. We thank you for being here. Make sure you check Carson out. I'll be back here later to talk some more. I've got a couple people that may want to come on for an interview, so we'll try to figure that out. We got Jalen Knighton possibly in the works. We maybe have Cannon Katzer in the works for an interview. So we're trying to work those things out. These guys just signed, and sometimes they're a class. They got a lot going on, but we'll figure it out, guys. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you on the next one, guys. For Carson, for myself, this episode is over, and we are out.